I'm going to illustrate how ellipses are used in basic illustration. Before we even draw an ellipse, we draw the letter T, with the upper bar crossing at right angles to the center line. In other words, if it's angular, it won't work out. So even the bottom is at right angles to the center line. If you tilt the center line, this is still at right angles to the center line. It'll begin to have meaning as we progress into this. So I'm going to rotate the paper to make it a little easier for me to draw an ellipse. If I draw an ellipse over that line, in other words, this is the depth and this is the width of the ellipse. Even this ellipse is at right angles to the center line. And if I'm about to draw, say, a tin can, I then rotate my paper so that I can join these ellipses together. And if it doesn't fit, I'll extend the ellipse so it does fit. In other words, you're free to do all these things in the beginning. That's why we suggest that you do your drawings freehand, just to gain control of the pencil or the medium you're drawing in. Now, if this is a leading edge, I'm going to strengthen the leading edge. That is, make it darker. This would be the leading edge. And if it's a drawing of a glass or a tin can, the bottom line rotates right up into the vertical, like this. It doesn't smack into it, it flows into it. Then when we shade it, we can either start dark and decrease the pressure as we go, so it's less intense. Then we skip a space and continue the process. Now, where the can is light, we make the inside dark, and we ease out as we move along toward the center. Notice it's dark here where it's light, and where it's light, it's dark. And that's basically the way we illustrate a can, a tin can, say. Now you can carry it on a little further if you wish to. That's the basic principle. Now if you want to put a top on the can and open it, you draw another ellipse. First you draw the angle, and you get that by pivoting from this point and swinging an arc. You swing an arc, in other words, in the manner you want to open that tin can. So here, over this, I will draw another ellipse. That represents the top of the can being pried off the perspective. So I can open it to any degree. All you have to do is use this line for your reference. So first you draw a straight line, and then you develop your ellipse over that line. So here I'm illustrating how you can open the top of the can in various degrees, but it should touch this quarter arc. This is a box to receive another glass container of different proportions. This is your horizon line, your vanishing point A and B. Remember, if it doesn't go to the vanishing point, it'll come out distorted. So, I'm going to prepare for an ellipse in the upper box by putting dots in the four corners. This gives me the height of the ellipse, and this gives me the width of the ellipse. So I'm going to rotate the paper to make it easier to draw. So I draw a small circle here, which is about 1/2 this distance. Whatever this distance is, I draw a circle about 1/2 that. Then I run from the top of that circle through the dot into this circle. Then I rotate the page upside down and go from the bottom of this circle through the dot and into this circle. Then I go over again and clean it up, meaning take out the abrupt changes in the line to get them to curve gently. So here you've got a round end, if you notice it. Most amateurs draw a pointed end on the ellipse. It's always round. How round? About half of this distance. Now, to get the ellipse on the bottom section of the glass container, I'm going to put a dot here, and the 4 bottom corners. Then I've got to draw a midsection line, which is about here. Then I have to fill this out so that this ellipse on the bottom is wider, not wider, but deeper than the upper one. So I rough in this ellipse. Then I go over it. The reason I sketch is I can change the lines. But when you draw hard and positively, you can't make the correct changes in the line. So I rotate the paper so it's easier. Remember, this flows into that. It doesn't hit it suddenly. It rolls into that. Now, to get from here to this point, I have to fill it out more. And then notice how rough the sketch is. I'm going to clean it up. But I have to have some frame of reference to go by. So here is a rough outline of the glass container. This is just to remind you that the width and height of the ellipse will vary depending on how high you are above an ellipse. The higher you go, in fact, if you're directly on top of it, it'll appear as a circle. As you move a glass downward, you will notice that the ellipse will change. So keeping that in mind, the aspect ratio, meaning the width to the height, is drawn first. And then you develop the ellipse around the width and the height, or depth. So these are variations on the elliptical shape. And the degree of radius that you put here is approximately 1/2 of what this distance is. So here you have a very tight roll, then it becomes larger and larger, as though this were a portion of a circle, which is based upon half this distance. And this is a drawing of a coffee cup, a side view of a coffee cup, which is something you're familiar with. Once you draw the coffee cup at an angle, you project it straight over to get the size of the upper ellipse, and the width is gotten this way, and the opening from these two lines. And that gives you where the lower ellipse would fall. And where the handle, by taking the handle straight over to a rear view, you've got the handle of the cup. So this is a cup turned in an unusual direction. Now, of course, when I draw, I don't have all these lines. I can draw the cup directly in perspective. If I want to, I can render a cup like this. But in my head, all this information is there already. So I don't need all the lines that you use. I can sit down and I can draw a perspective of a cup. Then I put tracing paper over it and pick it off clean. Then I emphasize or strengthen these lines, correct these curves, and then I double the thickness of the leading edge of the cup, which is much thicker than a single line. Then I strengthen the lines here so they're visually stronger. So, but before you draw, if you learn these laws, then you can go right on. And it isn't that the artist visualizes anything, it's that they've learned the laws. And they've got the laws in their head. They've got the vanishing points in their head, and they head for the vanishing point automatically. So we'll do the next illustration.